Shoulder to shoulder, surrounded by water, beyond which for set risk you face if you wanna. We live close, we build close, we speak in proximity. Season 8's here today, still in its infancy. Mumbo is saying go. Everyone's cheering. Always unfearing. Though it passed by without Mumbo mentioning, there's a crew you-know-who to keep you adventuring. The resupply crew. Assume a secure in villages. The resupply crew, Pearl Egg in a shell. The resupply crew, Joe Lava in a portal. Yo, you're immortal, here's a doorway to hell. Who's the guy? Who's the guy? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We can't actually play music because we want to keep the VOD for this one. So we're gonna pop out the chat on YouTube. Live chat. Welcome, Iconic Anemone. Welcome, Summerfan66. The Mon is me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so we need to set up the stream. We've got YouTube kind of partially set up. We've got Twitch entirely set up. So let's finish all of this. Show more, show less, show more, show less. Gaming Minecraft. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so we are going to go back here and we're going to set slow mode to 3 seconds and turn off live reactions on YouTube. Okay, welcome Travis Grenier. Welcome Morgan. Welcome Josh2K1, Zaki, Thy Lexicon. Glad you could join us, Grape Monkey. Welcome Centauratron. Okay. Now, I gave Asuma my good trident, and I don't know where the other one is. So, we are going to head out. I think my good trident is presumably back at the paper making place. Let me pull up Moby Dick or the Whale. Project Gutenberg. Project Gutenberg. Tool my shoe. Project Gutenberg. Okay, I will say this next few chapters is kind of peak Melville. Okay, so let me post the what we're reading link. What we're reading. Pin that, chapter 82 there. Oh, and before we get going with the reading, I do need to remind people, this is a viewer-supported stream. Thanks to the generosity of folks on the earlier stream, we are currently $19 away from the next Face Camera expansion milestone, and we are currently at 12% Joe Pasty, so we're not far from the entrance of the Beetlejuice. If you are interested in supporting the arts and my work in particular, or hearing me read with a Beetlejuice voice, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Welcome, Alpacatastic. We are just getting set up. Okay. Morgan writes, story time on HermitCraft. Yeah, it is. We're still setting up the stream. But yeah, these next two chapters are kind of like peak Herman Melville. We just had a chapter about chasing whales and ship's captains tricking each other and all sorts of fun stuff. Maybe not tricking, but like being rude to each other and squabbling. And now we're on to chapter 82. The honor and glory of whaling. And I gotta say, folks, these next two chapters are what you would expect from this book. That last chapter where the action moved along quickly and a bunch of stuff happened, some of you guys might have been like, wait, what are we even doing here? What are we even doing? Why? Well, don't worry. Don't worry. We are back to tip-top Melville shape. Is this Riptide 2 Impaling Mending? That'll be okay. So we're going to put that away here. And okay. Magenta Avocado says, howdy, we just completed defeating the dragon on Everstorm. Congratulations. Welcome, Draka Bandit, as well. I'm glad you could catch the stream. Kindle says Magenta with their kill sniping skills. I take it Magenta got the kill on the dragon. I don't remember. Did I install any mods that made the end really bonkers in this one? And when I say I don't remember, I know that I had intended to install a mod that changed the terrain in the end, but I had a bunch of weird conflicts between the mod packs when I was trying to get the thing out the door, and I might have... Okay, so I didn't pull that out. Does that affect the main island or only the outer islands? Magenta says you did indeed, lol. So, okay, did it affect the dragon fight any? Did it make the dragon fight totally awesome? Because we're cool and we're totally awesome. Mostly the outer islands. Fair enough. Yeah, we're far enough into the month. I remember what I intended to do, but I don't remember if I did it. Which got me into a lot of trouble today. I mean, I didn't get into actual trouble, but it got me into a bad situation. So, when I went grocery shopping last time, I bought Cajun sausage for the gumbo we were making that night, and I thought, you know, it'd be good to have some extra sausage in the fridge for the next time we don't have any big dinner plans. We can just pull the sausage out and cook it with some rice or something. And so this morning, I was like, oh, you know, I don't know if we have anything good planned for dinner. You know, why don't we just do that sausage I bought? I didn't buy that sausage. I thought about buying that sausage, but I decided against it because I was like, nah, I'm going to go to the butcher shop in a few days. I'll get good sausage later. But it wasn't until after my 5-hour stream when I had everything going to get ready to make dinner, and I opened the fridge and there's no sausage, where it's like, oh no, I need to run to the store. Welcome, Marcus Stereo. Thank you for the raid. Josh2K1 says, have you read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? I did when I was very young. But, the End Phantoms were quite a bit of trouble. Were there always End Phantoms, or is that part of the mod pack? Did I do that? Did I do that? My daughter will have no idea what that reference is. Oh yeah, that's right. If I want to be able to zoom in on myself, I need to be looking dead ahead when I let go of that. Did I do that? Welcome, Grand. Glad you could join us. It was part of the mod pack. Okay. Yeah. So, we are into, Morgan says, why do I see an eye? Oh, that's my eyeball. A lot of streamers these days are using cameras so that viewers can feel more connected to them. But I like to think that people want to see the game through the eyes of a hermit, so welcome. But yeah, the camera will get bigger if people keep tipping. We're $19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. So if anybody wants to show Morgan in the YouTube chat how the camera gets bigger, don't worry, those tips are cumulative. So, like, if somebody tips 5 and then somebody else tips, like, 13... Wait, no, 14, yeah. I've got an abacus. I can hold the abacus up, but you'll have a hard time seeing it with the camera being this big already. Woo, abacus. I'm glad we came here tonight, says Grant. Thank you, Grant. Welcome, Zycatch. Glad you could join us. Oh, boy. We're having a nice, chill Saturday. We're about to read some Moby Dick. So because these streams, we want to have the VODs available for people to, like, you know, listen to the book later. We don't play any music. So I'm still kind of warming up my voice. Didn't have the opening songs to sing along with. Stretching out. Okay. Okay, here we go. Chapter 82 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. The Glory and Honor of Whaling. There are some enterprises in which a careful disorderliness is the true method. The more I dive into this matter of whaling and push my researches up to the very spring head of it, so much the more am I impressed with its great honorableness and antiquity. And especially when I find so many great demigods and heroes, prophets of all sorts, who one way or another have shed distinction upon it, I am transported with the reflection that I myself belong, though but subordinately, to so emblazoned a fraternity. The gallant Perseus, a son of Jupiter, was the first whaleman, and to the eternal honor of our calling, let it be said that the first whale attacked by our brotherhood was not killed with any sordid intent. Those were the knightly days of our profession, when we only bore arms to succor the distressed and not to fill men's lamp feeders. Everyone knows the fine story of Perseus and Andromeda, how the lovely Andromeda, the daughter of a king, was tied to a rock on the seacoast, and as Leviathan was in the very act of carrying her off, Perseus, the prince of whalemen, intrepidly advancing, harpooned the monster and delivered and married the maid. It was an admirable artistic exploit, rarely achieved by the best harpooners of the present day, insomuch as this Leviathan was slain at the very first dart. And let no man doubt this archite story. For in ancient Joppa, now Jaffa, on the Syrian coast, in one of the pagan temples, there stood for many ages the vast skeleton of a whale, which the city's legends and all the inhabitants asserted to be the identical bones of the monster that Perseus slew. When the Romans took Joppa, the same skeleton was carried to Italy in triumph. What seems most singular and suggestively important to this story is this. It was from Joppa that Jonah set sail. Akin to the adventure of Perseus and Andromeda, indeed by some supposed to be indirectly derived from it, is that famous story of St. George and the dragon. Which dragon I maintain to have been a whale, for in many old chronicles, whales and dragons are strangely jumbled together and often stand for each other. Thou art as a lion of the waters, and as a dragon of the sea, saith Ezekiel, hereby plainly meaning a whale. In truth, some versions of the Bible use that word itself. Besides, it would much subtract from the glory of the exploit had St. George but encountered a crawling reptile of the land, instead of doing battle with the great monster of the deep. Any man may kill a snake, but only a Perseus, a St. George, a coffin, have the heart in them to march boldly up to a whale. Let not the modern paintings of this scene mislead us, for though the creature encountered by that valiant whaleman of old is vaguely represented of a griffin-like shape, and though the battle is depicted on land, and the saint on horseback, yet, considering the great ignorance of those times, when the true form of the whale was unknown to artists, and considering that, as in Perseus's case, St. George's whale might have crawled up out of the sea on the beach, and considering that the animal ridden by St. George might have only been a large seal or seahorse, bearing all this in mind, it will not appear altogether incompatible with the sacred legend and the ancient drafts of the scene to hold this so-called dragon no other than the Leviathan himself. In fact, placed before the strict and piercing truth, this whole story will fare like that fish, flesh, and foul idol of the Philistines, Dagon by name, who, being planted before the ark of Israel, his horse's head and both the palms of his hands fell off from him, and only the stump, or fishy part of him, remained. Thus, then, one of our own noble stamp, even a whaleman, is the tutelary guardian of England, and by good rights, we harpooneers of Nantucket should be enrolled in the most noble order of St. George. And therefore, let not the knights of that honorable company, none of whom, I venture to say, have ever had to do with a whale like their great patron, let them never eye a Nantucketer with disdain, since even in our woolen frocks and tarred trousers, we are much better entitled to St. George's decoration than they. Whether to admit Hercules among us or not. Concerning this, I long remained dubious, for though, according to the Greek mythologies, that antique Crockett and Kit Carson, that brawny doer of rejoicing good deeds, was swallowed down and thrown up by a whale, still, whether that strictly makes a whaleman of him, that might be mooted. It nowhere appears that he actually ever harpooned his fish, unless, indeed, from the inside. Nevertheless, he may be deemed a sort of involuntary whaleman. At any rate, the whale caught him, if he did not the whale. I claim him for one of our clan. But by the best contradictory authorities, this Grecian story of Hercules and the whale is considered to be derived from the still more ancient Hebrew story of Jonah and the whale, and vice versa. Certainly, they are very similar. If I claim the demigod, why not the prophet? Nor do heroes, saints, demigods, and prophets alone comprise the whole roll of our order. Our Grand Master is still to be named, for, like royal kings of old times, we find the headwaters of our fraternity in nothing short of the great gods themselves. That wondrous oriental story is now to be rehearsed from the Shastra, which gives us the dread Vishnu, one of three persons in the godhead of the Hindus, gives us this divine Vishnu himself for our Lord, Vishnu, who, by the first of his 10 earthly incarnations, has forever set apart and sanctified the whale. When Brahma, or the god of gods, saith the Shastra, resolved to recreate the world after one of its periodical dissolutions, he gave birth to Vishnu to preside over the work. But the Vedas, or mystical books, whose perusal would seem to have been indispensable to Vishnu before beginning the creation, and which, therefore, must have contained something in the shape of practical hints to young architects, these Vedas were lying at the bottom of the waters. So Vishnu became incarnate in a whale, and, sounding down in him to the uttermost depths, rescued the sacred volumes. Was not this Vishnu a whaleman then, even as a man who rides a horse is called a horseman? Perseus, St. George, Hercules, Jonah, and Vishnu. There's a member role for you. What club but the Whalemen's can head off like that? And thus concludes Chapter 82 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Attican23 rolling in with a raid just as we wrapped up that chapter. Thank you very much for the raid, Attican. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. So yeah, we are reading Moby Dick and gathering materials. So yeah, this is as I said, kind of a peak Melville chapter. Melville is now arguing about which mythological figures, religious figures, etc., count as whalemen. And like, why? Why? This is like a forum post where somebody who works as, like, I'm trying to think. This is like a forum post where somebody who works as a podcaster tries to explain that Moses was like the original podcaster. And I'm saying this as somebody who points out that John the Baptist was basically doing the same thing as Let's Players. That's a massive oversimplification, obviously. But you see what I'm saying. Like, this is kind of one of those things where, like, the whaleman as profession. Does Vishnu turning into a whale count? Sure. Why not? Why not? Zycatch says, it feels like on a deeper level he's trying to find a reason for his craft. That all these great figures were whalemen, so his craft must be a holy one, a worthy one. Well, and that's one of the things is he keeps coming back to this idea that the whales are these majestic creatures, and that light is virtuous and good, and so whales creating lamp oil is virtuous and good. But he complains about all the things people waste whale oil on, like parties and reading books that are terrible, right? So he wants the death of the whale to be meaningful because he finds both beauty and tragedy in the whale. Hey, Creative Knots. I'm glad you enjoy your new hat. Let's see, what are we doing here? So we can hang out here for a little bit while we wait for that to regrow. Zycatch says, genuine question, is there a specific reason why there's a faint overlay of your face on the stream? Yeah, a lot of YouTubers nowadays and Twitch streamers or whatever are using web cameras so that their audience can feel more connected to this, person behind the game or whatever. I thought that was stupid. I've been streaming since 2008, and back in 2008, you couldn't have any overlays. Your computer could barely process what you were streaming at, like, 10 frames a second. Like, you couldn't do a bunch of overlays or have webcams and stuff. And over time, the technology got better, and people kept telling me, Joe, you got to get a webcam. Joe, you got to get a webcam. And I didn't want one. But, eventually I kind of see where things are going. And I'm like, okay, fine, you guys. I'll get a webcam, but I'm going to put it down in the little box in the hotbar, in Minecraft. So I'll just be a really little tiny little guy because I feel like I don't want it to distract from the stream. And people kept complaining at me. And they kept complaining at me. And I'm like, guys, I did what you asked. I got a webcam. Just leave me alone. And finally, one day, some viewer said, what if I give you $20? What if I tip $20 right now for you to make the web camera bigger? And I said, I don't want to do that. I like the web camera the size it is. And if I let you do that, everybody's going to want to keep making the camera bigger. And where's that going to stop? And a bunch of people were like, oh, yeah, I'll give $20 if you make the camera bigger. I'll give $20 if you make the camera bigger. And I was like, fine. Because the audience didn't know this at the time, but I had been recently served with divorce papers. And I was doing the math on becoming a single father. And I was like, okay, well, I need all the help I can get. So, fine. I don't like making the camera bigger, but I need all the help I can get. And so fine, let's do it. So people started tipping $20 and the camera would get bigger every time. And they were like, is the camera still going to be this size tomorrow? And I was like, no. Because in this house, we follow Groundhog Day rules. It resets every day at 6 a.m. Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania time. So if I do multiple streams in one day, it carries over. So this is a carryover from the 5-hour stream I did earlier. Another thing was people were like, well, what if I don't have $20? What if I only tip 10? What if I only tip 5? And so I initially was like, okay, well, I'll get some Post-it notes and write down the partial tips toward the 20. And then that was stupid, so I bought this abacus, which you can barely see, but it's here. I've got an abacus now. And so I bought an abacus to keep track of how close we are to $20. So we are $19 away from the next phase camera expansion milestone. Anybody who would like to see the camera get bigger, we are $20 away from that. It's Badger. Thank you, Badger. Bringing in a replacement drink. You're the best. Did you notice that the room isn't full of paper everywhere? Because I've been cleaning? Yeah. Also, your mic is off because I was moving it around. And your headphones are over here. Do you want them back? Sorry. Just in case you need them later. You're welcome. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I had to unclip them to get to the filing cabinet. This room is a mess, but it's slowly getting better. I am improving the studio.
It's way better than it has been. Don't worry.
Yay. Badger was just saying it's way better than it has been. Don't worry. You can't hear that yet because the Badger's mic is still off. But, okay. So, anyway. Yeah. Where was I? We are going to harvest some more sugar cane. We're going to read some more Moby Dick tonight. Every Saturday night. For those of you who've never been to a Joe Hill stream before, this is not a normal stream. Saturday night, we do something special. We do the really grindy stuff, like running farms and mining out mountains and stuff, that normally wouldn't carry a stream. But I've been streaming for so long and reading multiple chats for so long while streaming, I can actually read a novel while I do this farming stuff, which I didn't expect at first. But we read all of Dracula in Season 9 of HermitCraft. Now in Season 10 of HermitCraft, we're reading Moby Dick, which is not technically a science fiction novel, but is written in a way that anticipates the invention of the internet. A lot of the chapters are like forum posts. The overall like framework of the story is a guy at a party who can't get off Wikipedia while he's trying to tell you a story about while he went on a boat one time. It's bonkers. That's why we're reading Moby Dick, because I wanted people to experience kind of one of the forerunners of modern science fiction in a vibe level. This is not a book that's science fiction because of the technology. It's a book that's science fiction because of the communication method. Anybody who sits down and reads this book will be like, you know, I've talked to a lot of people about this book, and they're like, I got to the chapter where he's ranking the types of whale, and I just couldn't read it. I was like, why would somebody write this? And I'm like, this is somebody writing a book that anticipates the forum post where somebody ranks the different incarnations of Spider-Man. Except it's about whales, because they didn't have Spider-Man yet. Stan Lee had not yet walked the earth in the 1850s, okay? So I really want people to consider checking out Moby Dick. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I've read Dracula, too. I was like, Dracula is such a classic book, but a lot of people haven't read it. Let's go and check it out. Howdy, NJ. Zycatch says, seems like you would enjoy Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Wait, what was that, Badger?
When it's a surname, it's usually St. John rather than St. John.
It's not St. John, it's St. John? Okay, well, I'm gonna...
Depends how posh they are.
Depends how posh they are. Well, I'm not very posh at all. Not posh spice. I'm barely garlic spice. Although we did have some garlic spice Brussels sprouts and carrots for dinner. That turned out really well. Yeah. And luckily, I started dinner. Everybody was starving by 4:15. Normally, we eat around 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I was like, I know it's not 5 yet, but maybe I'll start making dinner. And everyone's like, yes, we're starving. And then I start making dinner, and I'm like, oh, no, I was wrong about that sausage. I need to run to the store. So, yeah. I'm not going to say I ran the whole way to the store and back, but I was pretty hungry. And I did have a good hustle. So, yeah. I grabbed some sausages. We still had dinner on the table by like 5:30. So, yeah. Good thing I didn't wait till 5 to start making dinner, because then it would have been really late. But yeah.
It was delicious.
Yeah, it was delicious, says Badger. Let me know when you're ready for me to turn your mic on.
Yeah, go for it.
Badger's mic is on.
Hello.
Badger's mic is on. Hello,
It's
Badger.
turned all up. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the badger. Whoop, whoop. London person in my home. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the badger. Whoop, whoop.
Howdy.
Howdy, badger. Okay, yeah, we are just letting this sugarcane farm here. Now, so, yeah, welcome, Mongo Pingu. And NJ says, hey, Badger, missed you earlier. And Alpacatastic says, here I am making dinner at 10 p.m. because I have lunch with my parents at 3.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, my parents will call me up sometimes. And they're like, it's like 3:30. And they're like, we're driving through town. We haven't had lunch yet. You guys want to grab food? And it's like, I guess. Like, it's early for dinner.
Occasionally they're like, hey, if we buy the food, can we eat it at your house?
Yeah, can we pick up takeout to bring to your house? We just want to sit somewhere, like, not in public and just chill. It's like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so yeah. NJ says, I'm on my field trip in New England. Flight was only delayed over an hour. At least it wasn't delayed, like, over the ocean and you're slowly running out of fuel and you're, like, thinking to yourself, boy, I hope these rafts work. That would be a lot worse. Okay. So, core concept. We are about to read... We just finished chapter 82. We need to move on to chapter 83 of Moby Dick or the Whale. But before we do that, I need to update the What We're Reading link. And I need to do a hard refresh to make sure we haven't missed any tips. Because, I mean, obviously, that was such a great reading of chapter 82 that we should have some tips rolling in. Nope. Okay, apparently I did not read that book well enough. Let's just move on to chapter 83. Let's give it a good old college try here. Okay, we're going to update the pinned link for what we're reading to point to the next chapter. The next chapter, Jonah, historically regarded, is... I'm going to turn that mic back down because your laptop fan just kicked in.
Went, start the fans, please.
Throw the fans, Kronk! I still haven't actually seen The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, you love it.
I mean, we'll get to it
you
eventually. It's
love
got Patrick
Kronk.
Warburton in it.
Yeah.
Patrick Warburton's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Kronk is very much like Brock as well.
Oh, like Brock Sampson?
Yeah. He's that kind of...
Slayer of men!
He's that
Slayer
kind
of
of-
henchmen!
himbo kind of character.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, much like myself.
Himbo.
Welcome to the Joe Hill's gun show. You can't see my arms, but they're large. Okay, so
But yeah, if you want to turn my mic all the way down.
I will turn your mic all the way off because we're going to start reading chapter 83, Jonah, historically regarded. Reference was made to the historical story of Jonah and the whale in the preceding chapter. Now, some Nantucketers rather distrust this historical story of Jonah and the whale. But then there were some skeptical Greeks and Romans who, standing out from the orthodox pagans of their times, equally doubted the stories of Hercules and the whale, and Arion and the dolphin. And yet their doubting those traditions did not make those traditions one whit the less facts for all that. One old Sag Harbor whaleman's chief reason for questioning the Hebrew story was this. He had one of those quaint, old-fashioned Bibles, embellished with curious, unscientific plates, one of which represented Jonah's whale with 2 spouts in his head. A peculiarity only true with respect to a species of the Leviathan, the right whale, and the varieties of that order, concerning which the fishermen have this saying, "A penny roll would choke him." His swallow is so very small. But to this, Bishop Jeb's anticipative answer is ready. It is not necessary, hints the bishop, that we consider Jonah as tombed in the whale's belly, but as temporarily lodged in some part of his mouth. And this seems reasonable enough in the good bishop, for truly the right whale's mouth would accommodate a couple of whist tables and comfortably seat all the players. Possibly, too, Jonah might have ensconced himself in a hollow tooth. But on second thought, the right whale is toothless. Another reason which Sag Harbor, he went by that name, urged for his want of faith on this matter of the prophet was something obscurely in reference to his incarcerated body and the whale's gastric juices. But this objection likewise falls to the ground, because a German exegetist supposes that Jonah might have taken refuge in the floating body of a dead whale, even as the French soldiers in the Russian campaign turned their dead horses into tents and crawled into them. Besides, it has been divined by other continental commentators that when Jonah was thrown overboard from the Joppa ship, he straightway effected his escape to another vessel nearby, some vessel with a whale for a figurehead, and, I would add, possibly called the Whale, as some craft are nowadays christened the Shark, the Gull, or the Eagle. Nor have there been wanting learned exegetists who have opined that the whale mentioned in the book of Jonah merely meant a life preserver, an inflated bag of wind, which the endangered prophet swam to, and so was saved from a watery doom. Poor Sag Harbor, therefore, seems worsted all around. But he had still another reason for his want of faith. It was this, if I remember right. Jonah was swallowed by the whale in the Mediterranean Sea, and after 3 days, he was vomited up somewhere within 3 days' journey of Nineveh, a city on the Tigris, very much more than 3 days' journey across from the nearest point of the Mediterranean coast. How is that? But was there no other way for the whale to land the prophet within that short distance of Nineveh? Yes. He might have carried him round by way of Cape of Good Hope, but not to speak of the passage through the whole length of the Mediterranean and another passage up the Persian Gulf and Red Sea. Such a supposition would involve the complete circumnavigation of all Africa in 3 days. Not to speak of the Tigris waters near the site of Nineveh being too shallow for any whale to swim in. Besides, this idea of Jonah's weathering the Cape of Good Hope at so early a day would wrest the honor of discovery of that great headland from Bartholomew Diaz, its reputed discoverer, and so make modern history a liar. But all these foolish arguments of old Sag Harbor only evinced his foolish pride of reason, a thing still more reprehensible in him, seeing that he had but little learning, except what he had picked up from the sun and the sea. I say it only shows his foolish, impious pride and abominable, devilish rebellion against the reverend clergy. For by a Portuguese Catholic priest, this very idea of Jonah's going to Nineveh via the Cape of Good Hope was advanced as a signal magnification of the general miracle. And so it was. Besides, to this day, the highly enlightened Turks devoutly believe in the historical story of Jonah, and some 3 centuries ago, an English traveler in Old Harris's Voyages speaks of a Turkish mosque in honor of Jonah, in which mosque was a miraculous lamp that burnt without any oil. And thus concludes chapter 83 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. So once again, these chapters are pretty peak Melville. This is him going all in on arguing with strangers on the internet about whales, about Jonah, about miracles. Once again, a little sci-fi element, a lamp that burns without any oil. Could you imagine a world where whaling is no longer necessary? Melville thought that might be a miracle. It's interesting, right? Ezra Manning writes in the Twitch chat, OMG, I've got a lamp that burns without oil too. Oh, I hope you enjoy that, Ezra Manning. That sounds like a real delight. Let's see, just as a reminder, if you're enjoying this reading of Moby Dick or The Whale by Herman Melville, tips are welcome. Or welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Centauratron says, a lamp without oil would be a miracle. Thank you, Centauratron, for that contribution. All right, so let's go ahead and check on... How is this doing? Is this ready to harvest yet? Maybe not quite. I mean, it's definitely starting to come in, but I think we need a little bit more time on that. Centauratron says, excuse me, I need to run to the store and grab some whale oil. Well, see you when you get back. Okay, so none of these are overflowing. You know what I haven't been checking is these side ones. Now, I will say the next chapter is more about whaling. So, if you get nervous about stories where people stab mammals, I'm going to say this next chapter, this is a mammal stabbing chapter. There's a mammal that gets stabbed at least once in this chapter. So, you've been warned. Might be time to get the kitties into bed. The next chapter is called Pitch Pollen. So we'll have to learn about that shortly. Anybody have any thoughts or questions about chapters 82 and 83 before we move on? Going to give you all a chance to get those thoughts and questions in, as well as to get any tips in that you'd like, because I won't normally interrupt the chapter in the middle to recognize those. So now's a great time to tip. Let's go ahead and lay our heads down and dream. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, these are maybe halfway to 2/3 ready to harvest. Not quite ready yet. What I should do is come over here, get a good angle on this. Was chapter 82 anything about the boat, or was it another Wikipedia dive? I missed it because it's Keon's Bishop. It was an internet forum argument about which historical and mythological figures counted as whalemen. Like, did Hercules, did Perseus, did Jonah, are these whalemen? Oh, I found the water. I'm still in the water. I might have to bring my view back. I think I'm under the thing. I'm gonna start drowning eventually. When did those bubbles come in? Like the empty bubbles? I don't remember that. Okay, so I'm off to the left somewhere. How am I still underwater? I'm definitely under the... Okay, I was caught under the thing. Fine. I was trying to get that set up so I could have the camera pointed that way. And so we could see the crops growing as we read. Let's try this again. So I'm going to try going that way. Do I not have the elytra on? Okay, now I'm over there. Okay, I'm almost in frame. Can I land on the platform? How am I not on the platform? I'm so close to the platform. What did I hit? I was way up there. Okay. I really genuinely believe I can do this. By the time we get the camera in place, it'll be time to harvest the crops again. This will have been... Yeah, actually, I'm looking at this, and I think it is just time to harvest them again. Okay, let's get the minecart out, and we're going to start harvesting before we do the next chapter. Ezra Manning says, is there any new works you're excited to see enter the public domain in the next 5 years or so? I don't really keep close track on that. You know, I really enjoyed Showtime's Dexter. If that goes into the public domain, we might do something with that, but I'm not sure when that's going to hit. It's got a really great opening sequence of him making breakfast. It's, like, super creepy. I like it a lot. Is that it? That might be something else. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who it's from. It's from Z Catch. Thank you, Z Catch, for tipping one. That brings us now $18 away from the next Face Gamer expansion milestone. Who says, thank you for the reading. Also, my name is pronounced Z. Thank you, Z. I will do my best to pronounce that properly. Isn't this Ismail's first whaling trip, says Alpaca-tastic? Well, he implies that this is not his only whaling trip. He's telling a story about his first whaling trip. But by the time he's telling this story, he's supposed to be like a more experienced whaleman, I think. Assuming that he survived and this isn't like American Beauty style. Okay. So, what we're reading, we need to update that what we're reading link to be chapter 84. What we're reading is chapter 84. Pitch polling of Moby Dick or the whale. Bum, 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 bum. Pin message. Da, da, na, 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 na. Pin message. Na, 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 na. Okay, I think we can take down the setting up now sign. We've been going for a while. And I think we're set up. Badger got me that second drink. We've got the chapter 84 ready. We got tips definitely working. We got our first tip rolling in. Yeah, I think we're ready. Here we go. Chapter 84. Pitch polling. To make them run easily and swiftly, the axles of carriages are anointed. And for much the same purpose, some whalers perform an analogous operation upon their boat. They grease the bottom. Nor is it to be doubted that such a procedure can do no harm. it may possibly be of no contemptible advantage, considering that oil and water are hostile. That oil is a sliding thing, and that the object in view is to make the boat slide bravely. Queequeg believed strongly in anointing his boat. And one morning, not long after the German ship Jungfrau disappeared, took more than customary pains in that occupation, crawling under its bottom, where it hung over the side, and rubbing in the unctuousness as though diligently seeking to ensure a crop of hair from the craft's bald keel. He seemed to be working in obedience to some particular presentiment, nor did it seem unwarranted by the event. Toward noon, whales were raised, but so soon as the ship sailed down to them, she turned and fled with swift precipitancy, a disordered flight, as of Cleopatra's barges from Actia. Nevertheless, the boats pursued, and Stubbs's was foremost. By great exertion, Tashtego at last succeeded in planting one iron, but the stricken whale, without at all sounding, still continued his horizontal flight with added fleetness. Such unintermittent strainings upon the planted iron must sooner or later inevitably extract it. It became imperative to lance the flying whale, or be content to lose him. But to haul the boat up to his flank was impossible. He swam so fast and furious. That's where that comes from. Fast and Furious comes from Moby Dick. You're welcome, America. Look at this. This is why we read the classics, so you can understand your culture. Sorry. I feel very strongly that people don't give Herman Melville enough credit for creating the Fast and Furious concept. Anyway, let me continue. What then remained? Of all... Wait, where was I? Of all the wondrous devices and dexterities, the sleights of hand and countless subtleties to which the veteran whaleman is so often forced, none exceed that fine maneuver with the lance, called pitch poled. Small sword or broadsword, in all its exercises, boasts nothing like it. It is only indispensable with an inveterate running whale. Its grand fact and feature is the wonderful distance to which the long lance is accurately darted from a violently rocking, jerking boat under extreme headway. Steel and wood included, the entire spear is some 10 or 12 feet in length. The staff is much slighter than that of the harpoon, and also of a lighter material, pine. It is furnished with a small rope, called a warp, of considerable length, by which it can be hauled back to the hand after darting. But before going further, it is important to mention here that though the harpoon may be pitch-poled in the same way with the lance, yet it is seldom done, and when done, is still less frequently successful, on account of the greater weight and inferior length of the harpoon, as compared with the lance, which, in effect, becomes serious drawbacks. As a general thing, therefore, you must first get fast to a whale, before any pitch poling comes into play. Look now at Stubb, a man who from his humorous, deliberate coolness and equanimity in the direst emergencies, was specifically qualified to excel in pitch polling. Look at him. He stands upright in the tossed bow of the flying boat. Wrapped in fleecy foam, the towing whale is 40 feet ahead. Handling the long lance lightly, glancing twice or thrice along its length to see if it be exactly straight, Stubb whistlingly gathers up the coil of the warp in one hand so as to secure its free end in his grasp, leaving the rest unobstructed. Then, holding the lance full before his waistband middle, he levels it at the whale. When covering him with it, he steadily depresses the butt end in his hand, thereby elevating the point till the weapon stands fairly balanced upon his palm, 15 feet in the air. He minds you somewhat of a juggler, balancing a long staff on his chin. Next moment, with a rapid, nameless impulse in a superb, lofty arc, that bright steel spans the foaming distance and quivers in the life spot of the whale. Instead of sparkling water, he now spouts red blood. "That drove the spigot out of him," cried Stubb. "'Tis July's immortal 4th, all fountains must run with wine today. Would now it were old Orleans whiskey, or old Ohio, or unspeakable old Monongahela. Then, Tashtego, lad, I'd have you hold a cannikin to the jet, and we'd drink round it. Verily, hearts alive, we'd brew choice punch in the spread of his spout hole there, and from that live punch bowl, quaff the living stuff." Again and again, to such gamesome talk, the dexterous dart is repeated, the spear returning to its master like a greyhound held in skillful leash. The agonized whale goes into his flurry, the tow line is slackened, and the pitch poler, dropping astern, folds his hands and mutely watches the monster die. And that concludes Chapter 84 of Moby Dick by Herman Melville. So yeah, we got any Fast and Furious fans in chat who are super hype for this prequel? You know, I was thinking about this, and maybe it's just because I've been watching the young ones too much, but like you might be able, if you were gonna make a Moby Dick movie in 1982. I really feel like the officers could be the young ones. You know, I feel like Rick could be Flask. I feel like maybe you have Starbuck, played by Aide, aka Vivian. I feel like Mike the cool guy would be Stubb. Now, obviously, that leaves Neil. And, you know, I'm not sure if you have Neil as Ishmael in this. I feel like Alexei Sale, who plays the Jablonskis, needs to be the captain, needs to be Ahab.
Yeah.
I feel like that's your Ahab right there. He would be a magnificent Ahab because he's so manic and he has all these great asides. Mm-hmm. But actually, you know what? Maybe there is one unofficial officer on the boat. The head of the mercenary crew that Ahab hires. Maybe you put Neil as the head of that because all of the other officers don't trust him. Because he's like all, you know, from the East and New Agey, yeah. And he has long hair, so he must be a hippie or something. There's something to this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Yazzie Wolf says, I'm not a Fast and Furious fan, but I've ridden the ride at Universal Orlando, and it's laughably bad. I am sorry. You know, like, honestly, no matter how you feel about the films, you want somebody who goes on a ride to have a good time. Like, when they're like, people are like, oh yeah, they're destroying the Tower of Terror to build this Guardians of the Galaxy ride. I'm like, that's the worst, stupidest thing ever. But, like, I hope it's at least a good ride, so that at the end of it, it was not a complete waste. But yeah, Superstone says, I don't think I've ever seen a semi-automatic sugarcane farm before. Oh yeah, 3-round burst. We've got well, no, I'm serious. I
know it is, but yeah, it works in gun terminology too.
Yeah. We've got 3 pairs of flying machines, and then I fly through. It's effective. Suppressing sugarcane. But yeah, how are y'all doing tonight? Any questions or thoughts about this latest whale hunt? Like, in some ways, this is every other time they've gone after a whale, it's been like some sort of disaster or nightmare or another. But this time, you know, they had a little bit of a problem in that the whale was not getting tired. But, like, Stubb saved the day. And it seemed to work out. This is arguably a chapter about the winds changing for the crew in some ways. Like, maybe things are getting better. Maybe they're pulling together, they're getting the hang of things, and everything is smooth sailing from here on out. But we've also seen that just because they can kill a whale doesn't mean they can necessarily safely get it back to the ship and harvest it. Is this the calm before the storm? I guess we'll have to read more to find out. Let's see. Before we do, though, just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream. We are $18 away from the next face camera expansion milestone, and tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Superstone says, when I went to Disneyland as a kid, my parents gave me $25 to buy souvenirs, and I spent almost all of it on an I Survived the Tower of Terror shirt. I guess the question is then, was this in, like, 1945 when $25 was even, like, more money? I don't know how old the Tower of Terror is. Scar would know. It's probably from, like...
70s.
Is it from the 70s? Okay, see, I was never, like, a Disney head. Because that's one of those things like Magic the Gathering that I just always assumed was for people with money. Like, my family never could afford it, but, yeah. So I never really got into...
No, I think it was just 80s.
80s? Okay, I've learned...
I know that Haunted Mansion was first.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ron Disney decided that, hey, Walt had a kind of good idea with having a spooky ride.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we can do with physics, basically.
Physics! Whoa!
And it's actually faster than freefall.
Oh, it's faster than freefall? Are they artificially accelerating you downward?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
I've never been, but I know so much about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know it was faster than freefall, because I've been on, like, that tower ride at Dollywood where you freefall.
Yeah, that's great.
That is great, especially because the view in the mountains is, like, gorgeous.
And there's another one not far from there as well that's a drop platform. And there's a guy that runs it who operates it and is always pranking people before he presses the button to drop them.
Oh, like, what does he do?
So he's like, hey, you haven't got your shoulder restraint on. Bang! Down.
Hey, you, put your restraint on.
Yep. Oh, wait 1 second. Something's gone wrong. Bong. Oh, no, it's fine.
I really would not mind my retirement job being working at Dollywood as, like, a ride operator or something. I don't know.
That would be fun.
Yeah. It's just, like, something where it's, like, you have an excuse to get out of the house.
The summers would be horrible, though.
I mean, summers in the mountains are actually not bad here. Like...
it was still humid as heck when...
I mean, it's way better than Nashville out there. I mean, everything is going to be worse than London to you, but...
But London is also incredibly humid.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any, like, air conditioning and stuff. So.
Yeah.
I've already got a better quality of life in summer here.
Yeah.
But it just feels like you're being hit by a can of soup every time you leave the house in summer here.
No, that's fair. You're not wrong. Luckily, I like soup, so it's fine.
Ah, delicious.
Yeah.
Soup, super tasty. Soup, super spicy. Carrot and coriander, chili chowder.
Oh, I know that. What is that from?
Crouton. Liquid, crunchy friends and liquid broth. I am gazpacho. Ooh, I am a summer soup.
I know this song. What is this from?
It's from the Mighty Boosh.
I've heard it in other
went
contexts,
viral
though.
a long time ago.
It definitely
and
went
it
viral.
Wasn't like connected to the Boosh.
Yeah, no, I feel like it was one of those like early like Fire Z Missiles flash cartoon.
Yeah, someone might have made.
Somebody might have made a
out of
flash
that.
cartoon of it or
Yeah,
something.
very likely.
Yeah.
Especially when you were at college.
Yeah, no, that's like
Because
exactly.
it came out
that.
in like 2006.
Okay, yeah, and I was
So,
in
yeah.
college in 2006.
Yeah.
But I am late tired. Then take a nap. Fire the missiles.
Well, our base belonged to us.
Yeah, that was when I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit long.
A bit, yeah, a while ago. Okay, so
The
let's,
internet.
okay, so let's see. Done a hard refresh on that. I think we're ready to start reading chapter 85, The Fountain. Let me verify real quick. This is not a super long chapter.
Good.
Good,
Am I
good.
muted? No.
You can be.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to. So, like, yeah, I read the first 3 chapters, or at least I skimmed them before we started the stream, just to make sure. I tried to get a general idea of, like, the length of the chapters, but I knew all 3 of those were short, but I didn't realize how short till I actually started reading them out loud. What's my favorite Young Ones episode? I'm really bad at ranking things, and I
haven't seen them all yet.
haven't seen them all yet, so I don't know. I'll probably get to the end and be like, well, I've seen them all, but I still don't have a favorite. I'm bad at that. But yeah, like I really, I think having the young ones, as the cast of Moby Dick would really make this accessible as the work of comedic literature it is. Like this book is full, like it's told from the point of view of a know-it-all windbag. And, like, you need that. Trying to tell this story as a drama rather than as a comedy. This is a tragedy. This story is literally a tragedy in that, like, the body count rivals Hamlet. But, like, it's... The whole thing is a joke in some ways, too. And, like... I don't know. There's just not a lot of good interpretations of that in media that I've seen. So, anyway, I think we should move on to chapter 85, The Fountain, but I need to update the pinned what we're reading link. Just as a reminder, any tips that roll in while I am reading, I will get to later. We are currently only at... What is the current show capacity? We are 18 away from the next expansion milestone, and we are currently at 12% show capacity. So let's see, 12. So the next one, so we're $18 away from 9, 38 away from 6, 58 away from 3. We're only $78 away from the entrance of the Beetlejuice. So if you'd like the Beetlejuice to come out and read some of Moby Dick to you, here's your chance. We're coming into this stream far closer than usual since we had that big 5-hour stream earlier today. So, yeah, that's an option. You know, how's my elytra? Yeah, I did promise Asuma that I was going to go check for copper. Let's maybe get on our way. Do I have any extra shulkers here? Yeah, let's grab some of these extra shulkers and go check for copper. Okay. So let's rename these Hermit Homedel Export Copper. Hermit, Homedale, export copper. I love it. Let's go. Boy, we got a lot going on. But we're getting it done. And we're going to just leave the gravel one. Okay. And away. Oh, we need to turn night into day. We go. So we've pinned chapter 85. Welcome, Kinetics Live. Thank you for joining us. And it's raining. And it's not raining. Okay. So the... what do you call it? Trident isn't going to carry me quite as far. Since it's only tier 2. But away we go. Okay. Chapter 85. The Fountain. That for 6,000 years, and no one knows how many millions of ages before, the great whales should have been spouting all over the sea and sprinkling and mystifying the gardens of the deep, as with so many sprinkling or mystifying pots, that for some centuries back, thousands of hunters should have been close by the fountains of the whale, watching these sprinklings and spoutings, that for all this should be, and yet that down to this blessed minute, 15 and a quarter past 1 o'clock of this 16th day of December, Anno Domini 1851, it should still remain a problem whether those spoutings are, after all, really water or nothing but vapor. This is surely a noteworthy thing. Let us then look at this matter, along with some interesting items contingent. Everyone knows that by the peculiar cunning of their gills, the finny tribes in general breathe the air which at all times is combined with the element in which they swim. Hence a herring or a cod might live a century and never once raise its head above the surface. But, owing to his marked internal structure which gives him regular lungs, like a human being's, the whale can only live by inhaling the disengaged air of the atmosphere. Wherefore the necessity for his periodical visits to the upper world. But he cannot in any degree breathe through his mouth, for in his ordinary attitude, the sperm whale's mouth is buried at least 8 feet beneath the surface, and, what is still more, his windpipe has no connection with his mouth. No, he breathes through his spiracle alone, and this is on the top of his head. If I say that in any creature, breathing is only a function indispensable to vitality, insomuch as it withdraws from the air a certain element, which, being subsequently brought into contact with the blood, imparts to the blood its vivifying principle, I do not think I shall err, though I may possibly use some superfluous scientific words. Assume it, and it follows that if all the blood in a man could be aerated with one breath, he might then seal up his nostrils and not fetch another for a considerable time. That is to say, he would then live without breathing. Anomalous as it may seem, this is precisely the case with the whale, who systematically lives, by intervals, his full hour and more, when at the bottom, without drawing a single breath, or so much as in any way inhaling a particle of air. For, remember, he has no gills. How is this? Between his ribs and on each side of his spine, he is supplied with a remarkable Cretan labyrinth of vermicelli-like vessels, which vessels, when he quits the surface, are completely distended with oxygenated blood, so that for an hour or more, 1,000 fathoms in the sea, he carries a surplus stock of vitality in him, just as the camel crossing the waterless desert carries a surplus supply of drink for future use in its 4 supplementary stomachs. The anatomical fact of this labyrinth is indisputable, and that the supposition founded upon it is reasonable and true seems the more cogent to me when I consider the otherwise inexplicable obstinacy of that Leviathan in having his spoutings out, as the fishermen phrase it. This is what I mean. If, unmolested upon rising to the surface, the sperm whale will continue there for a period of time exactly uniform with all his other unmolested risings. Say he stays 11 minutes and jets 70 times, that is, respires 70 breaths. Then, whenever he rises again, he will sure to be having his 70 breaths once more, over again, to a minute. Now, if after he fetches a few breaths, you alarm him so that he sounds, he will always be dodging up again to make good his regular allowance of air. And not till those 70 breaths are told will he finally go down to stay out his full term below. Remark, however, that in different individuals, those rates are different, but in any one, they are alike. Now, why should the whale thus insist upon having his spoutings out, unless it is to replenish his reservoir of air, ere descending for good? How obvious is it, too, that this necessity for the whale's rising exposes him to all the fatal hazards of the chase? For not by hook or by net could this vast Leviathan be caught when sailing 100 fathoms below the sunlight. Not so much thy skill, then, O hunter, as the great necessities that strike the victory to thee. In man, breathing is incessantly going on. One breath only serving for 2 or 3 pulsations. So that whatever other business he has to attend to, waking or sleeping, breathe he must, or surely die he will. But the sperm whale only breathes about 1/7 or Sunday of his time. It has been said that the whale only breathes through his spout hole. If it could truthfully be added that his spouts are mixed with water, then I opine we should be furnished with the reason why his sense of smell seems obliterated in him. For the only thing about him that at all answers to his nose is that identical spout hole, and being so clogged with two elements, it could not be expected to have the power of smelling. But, owing to the mystery of the spout, whether it be water or whether it be vapor, no absolute certainty can yet be arrived at on his head. Sure, it is, nevertheless, that the sperm whale has no proper olfactories. But what does he want of them? No roses, no violets, no cologne water in the sea. Furthermore, as his windpipe solely opens into the tube of his spouting canal, and as that long canal, like the Grand Erie Canal, is furnished with a sort of locks that open and shut for the downward retention of air or the upward exclusion of water. Therefore, the whale has no voice, unless you insult him by saying that when he so strangely rumbles, he talks through his nose. But then again, what has the whale to say? Seldom have I known any profound being that had anything to say to this world, unless forced to stammer out something by way of getting a living. Oh, happy the world is such an excellent listener. Now, the spouting canal of the sperm whale, chiefly intended as it is for the conveyance of air, and for several feet laid along horizontally, just beneath the upper surface of his head and a little to one side, this curious canal is very much like a gas pipe laid down in a city on one side of a street. But the question returns whether this gas pipe is also a water pipe. In other words, whether the spout of a sperm whale is the mere vapor of the exhaled breath, or whether that exhaled breath is mixed with water taken in at the mouth and discharged through the spiracle. It is certain that the mouth indirectly communicates with the spouting canal, but it cannot be proved that this is for the purpose of discharging water through the spiracle, because the greatest necessity for doing so would seem to be when in feeding, he accidentally takes in water. But the sperm whale's food is far beneath the surface, and there he cannot spout, even if he would. Besides, if you regard him very closely and time him with your watch, you will find that when unmolested, there is an undeviating rhyme between the periods of his jets and the ordinary periods of respiration. But why pester with all this reasoning on the subject? Speak out. You have seen him spout, then declare what the spout is. Can you not tell water from air? My dear sir, in this world it is not so easy to settle these plain things. I have ever found your plain things the naughtiest of all. And for this whale spout, you might almost stand in it and yet be undecided as to what it is precisely. The central body of it is hidden in the snowy, sparkling mist enveloping it. And how can you certainly tell whether any water falls from it, when always, when you are close enough to a whale to get a close view of his spout, he is in a prodigious commotion, the water cascading all round him. And if at such times you should think you really perceived drops of moisture in the spout, how do you know that they are not merely condensed from its vapor? Or how do you know that they are not identical drops superficially lodged in the spout hole fissure, which is countersunk into the summit of the whale's head? For even when tranquilly swimming through the midday sea, in a calm, with his elevated hump sun-dried as a dromedary's in the desert, even then the whale always carries a small basin of water on his head, as under a blazing sun you will sometimes see a cavity, as in a rock, filled up with rain. Nor is it at all prudent for the hunter to be over-curious touching the precise nature of the whale's spout. It will not do for him to be peering into it and putting his face in it. You cannot go with your pitcher to this fountain and fill it and bring it away, for even when coming into the slight contact with the outer vapory shreds of the jet, which will often happen, your skin will feverishly smart from the acridness of the thing so touching it. And I know one who, coming into still closer contact with the spout, whether with some scientific object in view or otherwise, I cannot say, the skin peeled off from his cheek and arm. Wherefore, among whalemen, the spout is deemed poisonous. They try to evade it. Another thing I have heard it said, and I do not much doubt it, is that if the jet is fairly spouted into your eyes, it will blind you. The wisest thing an investigator can ever do then, seems to me, to let this deadly spout alone. Still, we can hypothesize, even if we cannot prove and establish. My hypothesis is this: that the spout is nothing but mist. And besides other reasons, to this conclusion I am impelled by considerations touching the great inherent dignity and sublimity of the sperm whale. I account him no common, shallow being, inasmuch as it is an undisputed fact that he is never found on soundings, or near shores, as all other whales sometimes are. He is both ponderous and profound. And I am convinced that from the heads of all ponderous, profound beings, such as Plato, Pharaoh, the devil, Jupiter, Dante, and so on, there always goes up a certain semi-visible steam while in the act of thinking deep thoughts. While composing a little treatise on eternity, I had the curiosity to place a mirror before me, and ere long saw reflected there a curious, involved worming and undulation in the atmosphere over my head. The invariable moisture of my hair, while plunged in deep thought, after 6 cups of hot tea in my thin shingled attic of an August noon, this seems an additional argument for the above supposition. And how nobly it rises, the conceit of the mighty, mighty monster. To behold him solemnly sailing through a calm tropical sea, his vast mild head overhung by a canopy of vapor, engendered by his incommunicable contemplations, and that vapor, as you will sometimes see it, glorified by a rainbow, as if heaven itself had put its seal upon his thoughts. For do you see, rainbows do not visit the clean air. They only irradiate vapor. And so, through all the thick mists of the dim doubts in my mind, divine intuitions now and then shoot, enkindling my fog with a heavenly ray. And for this, I thank God. For all have doubts. Many deny, but doubts or denials, few along with them, have intuitions. Doubts of all things earthly, and intuitions of some things heavenly. This combination makes neither believer nor infidel, but makes a man who regards them both with an equal eye. And thus concludes chapter 85, The Fountain of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. If you are enjoying this reading, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Any thoughts or questions or concerns about this chapter? Jill Jackson says, "Can you imagine working with this guy?" Yeah, that's the thing, is like Ishmael is arguably the worst character in literature. And I don't mean like he's the worst written. He's very well written. But like, he is the most insufferable person in any book ever, basically. Ishmael, when people say don't be that guy, like, if you had a dictionary with plates in it back in the day, and you went to the page about that guy, there would be a picture of Ishmael. Like, that's that guy. So, we're going to change this one to be Hermit Holmdel Export Iron. And we're going to put the iron we've got so far in there. And we're going to make some room for additional copper, because we've got some more copper we need to grab as well. Our inventory is getting pretty full here. Tools and gearbox we can put back in there for right now. Gonna grab these and that export iron there, and we're gonna toss that iron away. Then we're gonna head back to where we had left our copper boxes. I told Asuma I'd get a rough inventory of how much copper we had, so he didn't have to restock his shop right away. Alpaca-tastic says, "Irradiated vapor is my new band name." Yeah, that's pretty metal. Jill Jackson says, "Why are whales always so bothered?" asks the man who bothers whales for his whole job. I know, right? Centauratron says, "I'm pretty sure the whales tend to be fairly gentle when you're not trying to kill them, Ishmael." Jill Jackson also says, "These are the ravings of a man with a serious Lyme deficiency." Yeah, this is not a British ship. They didn't have the technology yet to bring, what do you call it with them? Limes or lemons. Either or, I guess. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab some additional copper out of here. We're going to grab some additional iron out of here. We're just consolidating for the purposes of shop restocking. All of the copper farms on the server are about to have, well, not about to. Asuma says there's diminishing returns for copper shops on the server now. Something changed about how copper is stored. Or, not stored, farmed. And so I was like, well, until you can figure out a new farming method, let me see how much copper I've got. I think it's a, good bit, so we're just kind of going through and checking that out. Just as a reminder, we are $18 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Now, the chapters in this book tend to be kind of grouped. And so I'm just kind of going ahead real quick. And it looks like the next 3 chapters kind of fit together. And we've been going for over 90 minutes. This is a 2-hour stream on paper. So I think we're going to continue to gather stuff. But if you're watching this VOD, we're not going to read the next chapter, The Tale, today. That's going to be in the next episode. So I hope you check that out then. We're just going to hang out and do some mining and keep gathering copper for Asuma at the moment. And probably go back and get some more paper. So if you want to watch the Minecraft stuff, welcome to the Minecraft stuff. We do that here too. I am shocked to see that there's Minecraft occurring in this whaling stream. I'm kind of shocked nobody's made. I'm gonna turn Badger's mic back up for this. It seems like there's a lot of job sim games these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got the Power Washer, which I was thinking of the Power Washer when he describes like the whale's spout, like skinning a man's arm. I'm pretty sure that's power washing the guy's arm. It's not like actually acidic. That's just my guess.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be acidic.
It wouldn't be acidic,
No.
yeah. But like they wouldn't be able to necessarily tell if that was acid or pressure or friction or whatever.
Also, it's usually salt water, isn't it? So that would be a little more abrasive.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got like cuts in your arms. and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. It's not good. You don't want any of that. But here's what I'm thinking is like there's all these job sim games. And like they've started like, you know, off as like relatively straightforward, like truck simulator, train simulator. They have the power wash simulator. But then they've gotten like the next step, which is more gamified in some ways, like House Flipper, where like, okay, you have a little bit more freedom and creativity, but you're still like doing a job. You're cleaning up houses and you're making them nice. And then the next tier, the next generation seems to be stuff like murder cleanup simulators and like mortuary simulators, you know? Where it's like, oh man, you're working in this like grisly profession while doing these jobs. Why isn't the next step whale hunting simulator? Like, and you know, like maybe the core loop, maybe the actual whale hunting, like the harpooneering and stuff, that's a later DLC. The core game might be
Just getting there.
the core game might be they've already harpooned the whale. And now it's your job to prepare the whale for harvesting. And that you have to do the thing where you spin the whale to get all the blubber off and all that stuff. Like, you could do an entire game.
Render the blubber. and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah, where you gotta feed everything. Hey, welcome, Silent Whisperers.
that. Welcome.
Welcome,
We're talking about how to
welcome,
use
Raiders.
a dead whale corpse.
Yeah, we're talking about dead whale corpses. I was just saying that there's all these job simulator games. But there's no job simulator games where you harvest a whale for its blubber and oil, right? Like, it really feels like now is the time for, not necessarily, like I said, not a full whale hunting simulator. You don't do the harpooneering and the going out and chasing the whales. That's too exciting. You're the guy back on the ship who's
You're the
harvesting the
prep
corpse
guy,
of the whale. You know? You're the guy who has to, like, the whale's corpse is actually rotating while they harvest the blubber off it. So there's a guy whose job it is to run on top of the whale at the speed that it's rotating and do a bunch of jobs.
Yeah.
So it'd be a game where you're continuously standing on this giant rotating cylinder while working on the
Field
whale.
dressing a whale, basically.
I mean, I think that would be an interesting video game. Ken Dreadful suggests the name Oregon Whale. You know, Oregon Trail took place in 1840X or whatever, and this would take place in like 1850X. So it is the next logical step.
Succession.
Yeah,
And you need all
1800s.
that- You need to light those lamps, you know?
Yeah, and it's we got to collect barrels of whale oil. And like, you know, there's all sorts of accidents and problems that can occur while harvesting a whale, which we've learned. We've been reading Moby Dick. We just finished chapter 85 of Moby Dick. We've been reading it 80.
How much more have you got left? Because it's a
we-
big book.
It's a big book. I would say
Also, the chapters are...
so the chapters are variable length,
Yeah, I
okay?
was going to say, some of them are like 2 pages long.
Yeah, so we just finished like I said, chapter 85, and if I look at the table of contents, the number of chapters is 135. I'd say we're about two-thirds of the way through.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
looking at, like, how much text is left on the scroll bar.
How long have you been doing this now? It's been like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, Dracula took me a full year, though.
Yeah, true.
So we're about on the same pace as Dracula.
Yeah, because it's once a week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's once a week, and Grave Sea Turtle says, a programmer, I would love to make this game. The only problem is the hate that it would get.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a game where you clean up bodies for the mob. Like, I mean, people...
Yeah, but they're usually human bodies.
Yes. Well, would it make it better if the mob killed whales? I would argue that the mob killing whales is probably the...
But people have that kind of like, oh, we don't kill animals, but, you know, humans are okay.
I mean, there's a lot... Like, in Quake, you're attacked by dogs.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, you know,
And
yes,
same in
Quake did
Resident
result in...
Evil as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a certain degree of, like, well, it's a video game. I'm not worried about children going out and taking
I should say, though, every time I play Resident Evil, I was going, puppy!
Yeah. But like, you know, in terms of, like, replicatable acts, like, you know, a kid is not going to go out and get an 1850s wooden sailing ship and lead a harpoon crew to kill a whale, and then...
there are some, like, incredibly endangered crafts out there, like handcrafts, and people aren't teaching the younger generation how to do them, so it's possible that they might die out.
Sure.
Why don't we make simulator games for those as well as, like, to raise
Do you
money?
want the actual answer?
Yeah, go on then.
I actually, the answer is because the people who make games don't have genuine human relationships with the people who love these crafts, and they're terrified of having their culture stolen from them by some dumb Silicon Valley bro.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, it is
But
a
I can
great...
just
No, you're
imagine,
right. It is a great idea.
Some guy's kid who went into, like, into IT instead of, you know, doing the basket weaving or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a very specific kind of thing.
Well,
Like, sitting there going, well, I'm really guilty because I can't really do this, but hey, tell me everything you know about your craft.
okay, it's not that... so there's two parts of it. So I described, like, the people who could make these games aren't talking to the people who have these craft skills, or they don't know them. But when I say who could make these games, I'm not talking about only people with programming abilities. I'm talking about people with programming abilities and access to capital.
Yeah.
So the guy who's the son of the basket weaver,
Yeah.
who goes off to become a programmer, isn't necessarily going to have the contacts to get the capital because his dad wasn't a finance guy.
Yeah, true.
It's the programmers whose
Very
dads were
true.
finance guys that can spin up a programming company because they can go to their dad and be like, hey, can I borrow just like $3 million?
Yeah, for those...
You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what kills this
in
stuff.
the UK, we have a show called The Repair Shop.
Ooh, what do they repair? Do they repair shops?
No.
Okay.
They repair kind of random heirlooms and battered old things that people have, like, a sob story.
Yeah.
Like,
So
they
somebody
have
comes
an
in-
emotional connection to something.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's like a teddy bear that's kind of seen better days because it's like 80 years old. And It's
Okay.
been cuddled to death by like 4 generations.
Sure.
But then you get like army uniforms and things like that. And things that have been used in certain, like, for their entire lives. Like for their job. And the workers who repair those things are in those endangered crafts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually done a lot for people who, especially over lockdown, they were like, hey, so I saw this on the repair shop. These guys were doing this kind of really cool thing that I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it wasn't exactly like super specialized tools as well. And it's genuinely helped to kind of bring some awareness and training to people,
Well, that's fantastic.
which, yeah, genuinely works. So I'm really pleased that. The only problem is one of the presenters has just been arrested for DV, so there's a little bit of shame going on with that whole show.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, and so once again, you know, there has to be a certain level of trust
Yeah.
for this sort of collaboration to occur, and so even if somebody makes a great impression on camera, if they're not a trustworthy person, the no-nonsense craftsperson is not going to want to deal with them.
Exactly.
And they might get that vibe.
And I have a feeling that it's damaged future craftspeople coming in to help out with that.
Well, hopefully even if that show itself suffers from that person's tainted affiliation with it, the idea of people doing more crafts and repairs and stuff on stream or on TV is cool. And,
I love that.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that. So that's, but yeah, realistically,
It's because there is no money in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, when I've gone to gaming conventions, the specific combination of, I've been to a few panels where like Native Americans were talking about games that they made, right? About like that draw from Native American spirituality and their experiences, and how hard it is. Like, you know, they're basically like, we don't want games like this to be made unless we're the ones that make them.
Yeah.
And trying to find anybody to partner with who isn't going to screw us over or backstab us somehow is a nightmare. Trying to get enough money to make the game without like signing over our souls to somebody who's going to ruin it and completely distort the experience we're trying to create is just, you know, a constant nightmare. And so like I could see why, if it's this hard for somebody who is a programmer to get their own game off the ground, trying to do it as a collaboration with a craftsperson would be even harder.
Okay, so I just learned something. I was looking up endangered and extinct crafts, and we've got a list in the UK. It's the red list of endangered crafts.
Yeah.
And I just learned something.
Do tell.
What do you think is a riddle
A
as a physical thing?
A riddle as a physical object.
And also where the surname Riddler comes from. Because that's a really...
Wait, Riddler's a real surname? I thought it was
surname.
just... Oh, okay. Okay, so
and it's not someone who makes up, like, word kind of thing.
No. Would it be somebody who makes... I'm trying to think of what would be the... There would probably be some conceptual link to the word thing, but, like, it would be a very loose link. Like, maybe something related to locksmithing or, like, something with latches or puzzles, but not practical enough like watchsmithing that definitely still exists.
You are definitely going down the wrong road.
I'm going down the wrong road. Okay. Is a riddler somebody... I'm trying to think who, like, makes bridles for oxen?
It is something I would never have guessed in my life.
Well, let's see. That's really narrowing it down. Is it somebody who weaves magnetic core memory for spacecraft?
You nearly got it right with the first descriptor.
What
It
is
is a kind of weaver,
Okay.
but they make a specific kind of strainer. And apparently, like, this kind of sieve.
Oh, Wandering Mask has it. Is it someone who puts a lot of holes in something? They create sieves.
There you go.
It's riddled with holes.
Yep. Yep, exactly. But that's where that comes from. And it's like
Good job, Wandering
technically
Mask.
gold pans, like panning for gold.
Yeah.
That is a riddle.
Oh. That's very cool. Good approach there, Wandering Mask. An
you go.
admirable thought. Also, welcome Anon77 to your first Joe Hill stream. As you can see,
in the extinct crafts in the UK now, gold beating, which is literally
like where you hammer gold.
you hammer gold leaf back together.
That makes
into
sense.
Gold. The making of cricket balls.
Wait, so
Nowhere in the UK makes cricket balls in the same way that they did for generations before then.
Because nobody wrote it down?
Not that because nobody wrote it down, it's because they're made in India and China now.
Okay, but
But
like,
it's not in the same way, it's mass produced.
yeah. So
There's
they're not
no, like,
artisanal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Traditional lacrosse stick manufacturing.
Okay.
Because
Does that have a special verb for it?
Not really.
Is that like a tosser or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
But the lacrosse stick manufacturing thing is its own problem because
Okay.
it's the specific kind of tree
Hmm.
that it used to be made of, which is elm.
Okay.
And in the UK, we had something called Dutch elm disease.
Yeah, because you
And
like
it
blaming the Dutch for all your
killed
problems.
off all of the elms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they literally, like, my mum was a young child at the time and saw most of the trees in her neighbourhood having to be cut down.
Yeah.
It was, like, that massive. And another thing that is extinct, paper mould and decal making, a form of specialised paper making.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is mouth-blown flat glass making.
Interesting, because yeah, they still do like tubular glass and
Mhm.
three-dimensional stuff, but flat glass with mouth blowing,
Yeah.
they're not doing anymore. Interesting.
There you go.
So these all could have been video games if
Mhm.
we had got there in time.
But apparently the last British gold beaters, W. Haberley Meadows,
Mm.
and Duke's Cricket Balls of London both stopped production in the UK after being unable to recruit apprentices,
Yeah,
having both suffered the effects of cheaper foreign competition.
that makes sense.
But yeah, apparently riddle making is no longer on that list
Mm-hmm.
because 2 individuals came forward to revive the craft, one of whom persuaded the last riddle maker to train them despite him having retired.
Mm-hmm.
And the trainees are currently attempting to become commercially viable again.
Well, that'd be a treat.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't really need sieves that often, although I used 2 separate sieves to make dinner tonight, because we had both the gluten-free mac and cheese and the other mac and cheese. Originally we were going to do rice, but we realized mac and cheese would be easier.
Yum, yum, yum.
Yum, yum, yum. Okay. So, yeah, I've just been doing some inventory management here, which is one of the harder things to do while reading. Sorry that was a much more halting reading on that last pass. Okay. Boy, I feel like I should probably get some more storage going on in here for stuff like the emerald ore. Ba-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, we are 5 minutes away from when the stream is scheduled to end. Anybody who enjoyed the stream, we've only raised $2 in tips this stream. No, wait, no, $1 in tip. Sorry, I accidentally doubled the amount that we had earned. Didn't mean to wildly blow that out of proportion. But if you enjoy this stream and you think it was worth more than $1, feel free to toss another $1 or more than $1 my way or our way. So tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We're going to keep going for until the half hour as I get slightly more organized here. But it looks like I can tell Asuma I've got almost an entire shulker of, what are these called? Blocks of raw copper. And I've got 27 plus 18. So that's 9 times 5, 45. 47 stacks of copper ore. And so let's send a quick message to Asuma. Asuma. Hey X. I got that inventory of copper knocked out. I promised you. I have what was it? 25 stacks. I have 25 stacks of blocks of raw copper. And I have, it was 27, okay, so 47 stacks of copper ore. Let me know what you think is fair in trade, and I'm happy to deliver you some. Thanks. Okay, hey, we got a few tips rolling in. Thank you, everyone. Minecraft is the best visual wait, what's Vi short for? Hold on. Wiki Vi. Text editor. It was created by Bill Joy. It's short for visual. Minecraft is the best visual. Yep, thank you very much to Minecraft is the best visual for saying hi, bro. Well, hello, back to you. We got some tips rolling in. Mr. Hardluck tips 20 and says, toss a coin to your streamer. Oh, Twitch chat of plenty. That was not the melody. That's going to get us evenly to our next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. It's time to expand. Bum, bum. The Joost. We're going to use our filters here to lower the Joe opacity now from 12% to 9%. Thank you very much, Mr. Hardluck. Then we got another tip from Elodie, tip in 10. That gets us now 8 away from the next expansion. Elodie says, sorry I haven't been able to make the stream. Or, no apologies. I don't know why I'm adding that. I haven't been able to make the stream lately, but I hope you're well. I am, and I hope you are well too, Elodie. Thank you for popping in. Mr. Hardluck says, oh, well, it was close. I feel like it's like more like toss a coin to your Twitcher. I actually worked on a whole parody of this, and then I was super mad that Doc made one before I could get mine, like, made. Hold on. Let's go into my notes, toss a coin.
You're still banned from singing that.
Where am I banned from singing that?
Corinne.
Oh, Corinne got so mad at me.
Yeah.
And so I started I gave up on it, and I reapproached it with toss a vote to your riffer for Mystery Pinball Theater.
Nice.
Oh boy. Oh, I don't remember the opening melody. Do you remember the opening melody?
No,
it's like, when a humble bard graced a ride along with Geralt of Rivia, along came this song.
Nice.
When a stream viewer joined a raid to this Mystery Pinball Theater, we saw Manu Smith. When Johnny said hi Mark, or Arnold was Hercules, a quartet made jokes, and some folks typed joke vote 3. I don't remember the melody. The melody is really important for doing a parody song, and I cannot. It's been 4 years or 3 years or so. But yeah, I had a whole thing. Toss a vote to your riffer. 03K of MPs. But okay, anyway, we got another tip rolling in. Let's see who it's from. It's from Wandering Mass, tip in 1, who says, definitely worth more than $1 or even $2, but for you tonight, please accept the one I can give responsibly. Well, thank you for giving responsibly, Wandering Mass. That gets us only $7 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Also, welcome Vanta99. And Tara Ritchie, good evening to New Zealand. We are having a great stream. We are just wrapping up, doing last call for tips, and apparently completely botching this song. Baby. Yep. Yeah, let's see. What is this? My phone's blowing up. It's a bunch of pictures of babies dressed as animals. Okay. So, yeah, my sister-in-law took her kids to the library for one of their Halloween events. And then when they went back today, there was a bunch of pictures on the bulletin board of different kids dressed in their Halloween costumes. And the kids were super excited that they made the bulletin board.
Aww.
So, yeah. But it's one of those things, like, I see my family group chat has, like, 18 messages in the last 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh my god, who died? It's like, no, there's just some children in animal costumes on a library bulletin board. It's fine. At 10:30 at night. It's fine. Okay. So that's fun. Wondering Mass says, hooray! And LD3 says, aw! Yo, so let's go ahead and we're going to give last refresh there. Looks like we are in the clear. Thank you to everybody who tipped. Thank you to everybody who hung out. This was a fun time indeed. I have been streaming for over 7 hours today, so it is about time for me to wrap up. Okay, you know what? I think we're going to raid Evil Notion. He's doing the Saturday Night Jackbox. And NJ says that this is always a hoot. I haven't actually caught it myself, but obviously Saturday Night Jackbox Party Pack's probably not a family-friendly stream. So if you have kids, good night, kids. Go to bed. Listen to your parents. Don't be jerks. Seriously, be chill. If your parents are stressed out, don't give them extra stress. Okay, that's all the messages for the children. For the adults, we're going to head on over to Evil Notion's stream. He's been popping in on my stream more lately, and I want to be a friendly, good neighbor. So we're going to send people back over that way. So yeah, when you get to twitch.tv/evilnotion, say, howdy y'all, Joe Hills Raid here. And let's see. And that is all set up, so then I just need to come over here. What else do I need to do to end the stream? YouTube has made it really inconvenient to end the streams. But, oh wait, no, we're all good. Okay, cool. So, thank you all so much for joining me today. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee, joined by Badger Spanner from London, England. Any final words, Badger?
I mean, I'm from London, England, but I'm now from here.
Yay! We did it! Keep adventuring. Raid now.